With keto and intermittent fasting all the rage, is there a way you can eat what you want, when you want, and still lose weight? I followed keto and intermittent fasting for years, and I had a ton of success until I didn't. Even after losing more than 100 pounds and keeping it off for around 5 years, eventually my hormones crashed, and continuing with keto and intermittent fasting just made me feel bad. Plus, I dealt with 50 pounds of regained weight with a scale that just wouldn't quit going up for more than 5 years. And it wasn't until I quit being so narrow-minded with everything I learned about keto and fasting, and I opened my mind to a more flexible approach, that I was finally able to lose the weight and reclaim my health. Let's talk about how I eat what I want, when I want, and still reach my weight loss goal. Plus, keep watching and I will show you the results 1 year into my flexible dieting lifestyle. If you're wondering what this lifestyle is all about, Flexible Dieting 101 goes like this. Start with an online calculator to figure out the macronutrients that will help you lose weight. Answer questions like how much you weigh, your height, your age, and how often you exercise. When the calculator spits out your calories and macros, all you have to do is log what you eat while doing your best to hit your numbers. And you don't really have to hit all of your numbers right away. Even if you just stay in your calorie range and hit your protein target, you'll see a lot of progress. If you're totally new and not sure what macros are, they're the breakdown of the 3 nutrients that provide your body energy, also known as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Counting macros is similar to counting calories, except with macro counting, while you still want to stay in your calorie range, you should also aim for a certain percentage of each macro. Even though this sounds complicated, it's not. This strategy works way better than just counting calories because with macro tracking, your goal is to eat enough protein. This makes fat loss easier since protein helps you feel full longer and since it makes your metabolism stronger. You also should eat at least 25% of your calories from healthy fats to keep your hormones happy. When you only count calories, most people eat way too many processed carbs, which makes their diet unsustainable, mostly because you're starving and all you can think about is eating. I know that we have all been there. And since most people find way more long-term success when you add in weight training, fitting in somewhere between 2 to 4 training sessions each week is also pretty typical with the flexible dieting lifestyle. Let's talk about different versions of flexible dieting and how I follow flexible dieting for fat loss. If you're wondering how to do flexible dieting, it's important to realize that just like any other diet, this one can be approached in different ways. Some people follow an IIFYM flexible dieting approach, which stands for if it fits your macros. And with this approach, pretty much any foods that fit into your macros are fair game. I don't follow IIFYM since if I don't focus my diet around whole foods like meats, veggies, eggs, fruits, and cheese, then I would be so hungry all of the time, and my diet wouldn't last very long. I've tried plans like IIFYM in the past way too many times to count, and I regained everything I lost way too many times to count. That's because processed foods like Skittles or even the healthier options like protein bars are engineered to make you want to eat more food. And plans filled with diet foods that are heavily processed just left me ravenously hungry. That's why I prefer foods that provide more satiety. And these will always be whole foods that don't go through a bunch of processing in a lab. Whole foods contain the nutrients that your body actually needs to thrive instead of a bunch of chemicals that just makes you want to overeat. So a better flexible dieting strategy is to find the real whole foods that fill you up and stick to these foods most days. Now that doesn't mean that you can't veer off plan and have a pancake every once in a while. But a lot of successful dieters who lose weight and keep it off tend to eat the same types of meals over and over. And these are the meals that they just know work for them. Like my daily breakfast shake. I've eaten the same breakfast almost every day this past year while losing 40 pounds. And while this sounds boring, it just works for me. Starting my day with a nutrient-dense shake helps set me up for an entire day of good decisions. Another reason I eat a lot of the same meals is since I currently follow flexible dieting for weight loss, it's important that I stick within my calorie budget. And while 2,000 calories as my weight loss budget may seem high, I lose weight at this level since I lift heavy in the gym. I need to eat enough to fuel my workouts while also still eating in a slight calorie deficit for fat loss. And remember, just because I follow a flexible diet for fat loss, that doesn't mean that I eat whatever sounds good. Even though you can still enjoy foods that you love on a flexible diet, you still have to be strategic. While I do allow treats most days, I'm actually pretty strategic about which foods I eat as well as when I eat them. To give you a better idea of how to lose weight consistently, here's how a flexible diet full day of eating looks for me. The first thing I do when I wake up is I get some sort of activity in. So I either resistance train or I go for a walk. And since my body is trained to do these activities fasted, this just works for me. If your body isn't, then you may want to eat something first. Now, whether I walked or I train, my first meal is this breakfast shake around 8:30. I pack my shake with tons of nutrients so I give myself the best start possible. My daily shake includes protein powder, soaked chia seeds, green bananas, ice, creatine for strength, maca powder for hormones and energy, spinach for some extra greens, and some MCT oil for energy. I eat lunch most days somewhere around 12:45, mostly because that's what fits my schedule. I usually will have either a sandwich or a wrap that I load up with plenty of boar's head lunch meat, so I get a ton of protein for lunch. I also add some raw cheddar because this is really the only dairy I can eat consistently without problems, and I try to sneak in some veggies like a little lettuce, onions, and tomatoes for a little bit of extra low-calorie nutrition. I usually add a side of Quavos to get some high protein crunch, or maybe I'll have a Greek yogurt. I'm ready for a snack most days around 3, and my go-to is either protein ice cream or some cheese with this oatmeal banana cookie crumble recipe. Before we talk about dinner, it is important to mention that foods with protein powder, like ice cream or shakes, they're not quite as filling as whole foods. So even though these foods work for me, if you struggle with hunger, it's better to eat more real foods than fun food recipes made from protein powder. Now, dinner is typically around 6, and I usually make a meat-centered meal, like meals made from ground beef. So something like tacos or spaghetti with meat sauce, or even steak and a chicken breast-based meal. And I usually have some sort of carb with dinner since whole food carbs help with sleep. I loved baked potatoes, which are delicious and filling, but I also might have spaghetti noodles. I just am sure to measure them out so that I don't overdo them, and I always go heavier on the meat sauce than I do on the noodles. And a lot of times I'll even make nachos topped with whatever meat I made for dinner. I mean, who doesn't want to eat nachos for dinner on a weight loss plan? After dinner, if I still have room in my macros, I might have 2 squares of dark chocolate, or these days I've been eating those oatmeal banana cookie crumbles that I mentioned. And then I call it a night until after my workout the next morning. Basically, I love all of the foods that I'm eating, but to keep making progress, I always go heavy on the protein while still adding in some of the carbs that I love, and that really helps me stay consistent and on track with my flexible diet. Okay, so now that you understand what a flexible diet is and how I follow this approach, you may wonder, does flexible dieting work? Now, I will admit, at the start of my flexible dieting diet, I wasn't all that convinced. After all, my scale wasn't going down all that quickly, especially after I added more strength training to my routine. I actually started a flexible diet even before I knew what it even was. I just knew that keto and fasting were both making me feel really bad, so I had to eat more carbs and fast less just to feel like a human. And starting out, that's really all I cared about. I just wanted enough energy that I could take my kids to the park. But as I was learning about flexible dieting more, I figured out what I was doing, which helped me feel less guilty about eating more carbs. And I know that sounds strange if you've never followed a diet that's helped you lose a ton of weight in the past, but before I found flexible dieting, I fell into the thinking that the only way I could possibly lose weight was with a very low carb program like keto, because that's what worked in the past. So when I stopped following it, I actually did have some guilt and I was really scared to overdo the carbs. Here's my weight loss transformation on a flexible diet. Over the course of the past year, I'm down somewhere around 40 pounds. Now, before you make a judgment about whether this is good or bad progress, especially in a year's worth of work, please hear me out. First off, the previous 2 years, I just kept gaining weight. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, the scale just kept going up. And that resulted in nearly 50 pounds of weight gain, and I was completely miserable. So now that I'm down around 40 pounds in a year, that is something that I am really ecstatic about. But also, yes, the scale is down 40 pounds, but I've also spent a good chunk of the year adding muscle. And as I mentioned, this makes dieting much easier because I get to eat more. So this means that I don't have to worry about eating out a few days each week and going over my calories. It also means that my body is leaner, meaning I have less fat while still weighing more because I've added more lean muscle, which again means I get to eat more while still losing fat. So it's a really big win for me and a great goal to shoot for. A lot of other things have changed this past year too. My energy is finally really good. Last year at this time, I'd start to feel absolutely exhausted somewhere around 11 a.m. and just get worse as the day went on. These days, I have consistent energy all day and I am not exhausted by the end of the day. My brain fog and other symptoms like daily headaches and chronic migraines have also cleared up. I might maybe get one headache a month, if that, and thankfully, I can't remember the last time I had a migraine. And now that my focus is weight training, my posture is improving, which is something that I've been wanting for years. And some chronic back pain that I've also had for years is improving as well. So there are lots of big wins for this flexible dieting lifestyle. Plus, I have the 40-pound weight loss, and I'm still excited to keep going and see even more amazing changes in the future. Hopefully, this helped you figure out if flexible diet is something that you want to try. If it sounds like a good fit for you, drop a line below and I can send you my guide that helps women get started out with a flexible diet. And be sure to check out this video and you will learn the most important things to track during your fat loss diet. I would not have lost 40 pounds this year if I wasn't consistently tracking these 3 weight loss metrics.